Hello, I am Pramod Kumar and today we will study macroeconomics. Our chapter is Open Economy Macroeconomics and we have divided this chapter in 4 parts. We have already done 2 parts. This is the part 3 of 4. In this third part we will study managed floating, exchange rate management, international experience and determination of income in open economy, right? So we will start with managed floating. What is managed floating? Over a period of time, economies have among themselves, they have adopted this managed floating. It's a combination of flexible exchange rate system and fixed exchange rate system, both. That's why it's called managed floating. It is managed in the sense that it is fixed to some extent, and it is floating in the sense that it is flexible. So managed floating, it's an exchange rate system which has been adopted by several countries without any formal arrangement agreement, and it is a mixture of flexible exchange rate system which is called float part, the part which floats, which is floating, not fixed, and a fixed rate system, that is managed part, which is managed by the central governments of the economies. And this is also called, in the language of economics, dirty floating. Why do they call it dirty floating? Because central governments of various economies intervene to stabilize foreign exchange rates. Suppose in India, dollar is becoming costly vis-a-vis rupee. So what does the Reserve Bank of India do? Central bank. Reserve Bank of India is the central bank. What does it do? When dollar is becoming costlier vis-a-vis rupee, so Reserve Bank of India will start selling dollars in the market. So what will happen? In the market, supply of dollars will increase. So the rate of dollar vis-a-vis rupee will go down. And if the other way around, then what the RBI will do? It will start buying dollars from the market. So it will suck up a little bit of dollar liquidity from the market, and once again the desired exchange rate will be in the economy, right? Central banks through this managed floating intervene to buy and sell foreign currencies for moderating exchange rate movements, moderating. If it's very high, to make it slightly low. If it's very low, to make it slightly up, moderating exchange rate movements. Whenever they feel that such opportunities, such needs are there in the economy to act like this, right? And in this case, managed floating case, the official reserve transactions are not equal to 0, right? Because central governments intervene to manage the exchange rate, movement in exchange rate of various currencies. How do they intervene? By selling or buying foreign currencies, right? So managed floating part is done. Now we come to exchange rate management, international experience, right? So when you see the history of last 100 years or more than 100 years, how exchange rate has been managed by various economies and what has been the international experience, you will find initially it was gold standard. Initially means to the history that we connect with the foreign exchange rates. We don't go hundreds of years back. So initially we had the international experience we are talking about. We had the gold standard. What was the gold standard? Suppose India or say USA has issued dollars. So if USA has issued dollars of suppose 100,000, right? So this 100,000 worth of dollars was fully backed by gold, right? And the people who used to have this currency US dollar, they were assured that any point of time it can be converted into gold, right? And they had some rate, $1 $35 was equal to 1 ounce of gold, right? Something like that. And these things don't remain permanent, they keep on changing over a period of time. At one point of time, $35 was equal to 1 ounce of gold, means if you carry $35 and go to any place, you can exchange it for an ounce of gold, right? The gold is standard. But what happened? The needs of the people went up. The demands of currency by the people went up. But gold reserves or the supply of gold didn't go up in that proportion. So there were problems. Currencies issued by the central governments were not backed fully by the gold. So in the intervening period, silver also came into picture. In place of gold, now we had silver also. And this was called bimetallism. Means earlier one metal was there, gold. Now since the supply of currency was more because people needed more currency, but supply of gold didn't keep pace with the increase in supply of currency. So some other thing had to come to support that currency, and it was silver. So gold and silver both were there for some point of time. It was called bimetallism, means two metals, gold and silver, right? Then we had fractional reserve banking. Fractional reserve banking. It means suppose $1 lakh was issued, it was not backed 100% by gold. Suppose it was backed by 25% gold. Means if the government has issued currency of US dollar 1 lakh, the government will maintain gold reserves of 25,000 against this issue of $1 lakh of currency. So that was called fractional reserve banking. A fraction of the issued currency will be maintained in gold, not 100%. Because once again, the supply of gold didn't, the speed of supply of gold didn't keep pace with the speed of increase in the supply of currency. So fractional reserve banking. Then gold exchange standard came. Gold exchanges were established. Gold exchange standard. Once again, lower demand for gold against the issues amount of currencies. Further lower demand. Gold exchange standard. Then we had Bretton Woods system. International organization Bretton Woods, one conference was held, and there they agreed for a particular ratio of dollar to other currencies, some selected few currencies, major currencies of the world, Bretton Woods. But over a period of time that also broke down. Then we come to the current scenario. What is the current scenario? We have multiple regimes. Right? What is that multiple regimes? Some country follows X practice, some other countries follow Y, some still other set of countries follow Z. So that is why we call it multiple regimes of foreign exchange. Means some believe in fixed rate of exchange, others in floating, others in mixed, managed floating, some part managed, some part floating, like that, multiple regimes. But of late, exchange rates, foreign exchange rates change on a daily basis. Though there are minor changes, but they are on a daily basis, and almost the market is open. International market in foreign exchange is open, and it generally depends on demand and supply, unless and until some country, some economy finds it necessary to intervene to moderate the exchange rate, right? So exchange rate changes daily, and as a consequence, the role of gold in establishing any exchange rate has almost become nil, right? The role of gold, right, almost virtually eliminated from fixation of exchange rates, right? Now market forces determine basic trends. Market forces determine basic trends, and as per that, foreign exchange rates change daily. Though they change, they may be changing in a very small way, but they change daily, right? And virtual elimination of gold for fixation of foreign exchange rates. Now, market for gold is totally free market for gold. It is determined only by supply and demand, right? So, we have discussed exchange rate management, international experience, right? Now we go ahead to determination of income in open economy, right? How income is determined in open economy. So what is the difference between closed economy and open economy? In closed economy, earlier also we have discussed the sources of demand for domestic goods. In closed economy, I will write only CLS. The sources of demand for domestic goods and services arises from consumption plus investment plus government expenditure, right? In closed economy, see, you remember closed, since it is closed, here we don't have the elements of exports and imports because the economy is closed. It's not open for exports, it's not open for imports, closed economy. So in closed economy, the demand for domestic goods arises from consumption, investment and government expenditure, right? So Y is equal to C plus I plus G. Consumption expenditure, investment expenditure and government expenditure, right? And what is Y? Y is domestic income and the economy is closed. So domestic income is equal to consumption expenditure, investment expenditure, government expenditure. These three expenditures combined is equal to domestic income. Why? Because whatever is spent is distributed among factors of production. What are those factors of production? Land, labor, capital, and land gets rent, labor gets wages, capital gets interest, and entrepreneur, right? What does entrepreneur get? A share in profit. So whatever is spent, consumption, investment, government expenditure, it's distributed among four factors of production: land, labor, capital, entrepreneur. Rent for land, wages for labor, interest for capital and profit for entrepreneur, right? But when we go to the open economy, what do we get here? Open economy, what do we get here? Consumption plus investment plus government plus exports minus imports, right? In open economy, we get elements of export and import also. What does export do? Export adds to our domestic demand. Exports means we are fulfilling demand arising out of foreign country, from a foreign country. We produce and export. So, consumption plus investment plus government plus export minus imports is equal to domestic income, right? It can also be written in a different way. Y plus M is equal to C plus I plus G plus X. Or we can also say Y is equal to C plus I plus G plus NX. NX is equal to net exports. What is net exports? Is equal to exports minus imports, right? If exports are more than imports, we have trade surplus. If exports are more than imports, we have trade surplus. If imports are more than exports, we have trade deficit, right? So in closed economy, domestic income is equal to consumption expenditure plus investment expenditure plus government expenditure. The elements of export and import are not here because the economy is closed. In an open economy, the elements of export and import are added. Exports help in increasing the demands and imports from the supply side. They make up for the supply side. So, domestic income is equal to consumption, investment, government plus exports minus imports. Or domestic income plus imports is equal to consumption, investment, government, exports. Or we can also say domestic income is equal to consumption plus investment plus government plus NX, net exports. Net exports is equal to export minus import. If exports are more than imports, trade surplus. If imports are more than exports, trade deficit, right? Now, determination of income in open economy, right? Now, suppose in open economy, export X here constitutes, what does it constitute? Foreign countries are raising demand of our products. So, what will happen? Constitutes additional sources of demand which arises from foreign countries for domestic goods and services of domestic country, right? That comes from abroad, the demand comes from abroad and must be added to aggregate demand, right? Because it has to fulfill from domestic goods and services. So it adds, right? Aggregate demand. Then imports M. What is this? What are imports M? Imports M supplement supplies. They supplement supplies. Whatever supplies are required for the domestic economy, they supplement that, right? Supplement supplies in domestic market and are that part of domestic demand. Imports are that part of domestic demand which fall on foreign goods and services, because for imports we raise demand on foreign goods and services. For exports, foreign countries raise demand on our goods and services, right? So, what is imports? imports M supplement supplies in domestic market and are that part of domestic demand which falls on foreign goods and services, right? Therefore, what happens? National income identity for open economy is Y plus M is equal to C plus I plus G plus X, and we have arranged it like this: Y is equal to C plus I plus G plus, you say X minus M or NX, both are the same, right? X minus M here or NX, both are same. Net exports, right? Net exports is equal to export minus import, right? Then let us see here. Negative net exports implies trade deficit, right? Or you say positive net exports. What is positive net exports? I have exported 100, imported 90, less than 100. That is called positive net exports implies trade surplus. Negative, when it is negative net exports, then we have trade deficit, right? Then demand for import. Now very important thing to remember, demand for import is dependent on two things. Demand for import, what are those two things? Suppose in India, average person's per capita income is 10,000 rupees. Tomorrow, it increases from 10,000 to 15,000 rupees. Per capita income increases from 10,000 per person to 15,000. Then, with increase in income, there is increase in imports, right? So, imports are positively connected to income. Means, if income goes up, imports go up. Positively related, right? Then, another thing is real exchange rate. If real exchange rate goes up, then what happens? We need to import, buy. So if real exchange rate goes up, imports will decline, right? So with imports will decline, so far as R is concerned, real exchange rate, imports are negatively related. Is it correct? In India or any other country, income of people have increased. So there will be higher demand for imported goods. So imports are positively related to income. Means if income goes up, imports go up. If income comes down, imports come down. What about real exchange rate? What is the real exchange rate? Average price of foreign goods in terms of average price of domestic goods, right? If real exchange goes up, it means foreign goods become costlier, right? So if foreign goods become costlier, imports will go down. So real exchange rate goes up, imports come down. Real exchange rate comes down, imports go up. Real exchange rate goes up means goods in foreign country have become costlier. So if they become costlier, shall we import? No. Or we will import less. So imports are negatively connected with real exchange rate, right? Now let us see about This we have seen. So demand for imports depends on domestic income Y and real exchange rate R. Demand for import depends on domestic income Y and real exchange rate R. Increase in income will lead to increase in imports, right? Increase in real exchange rate makes foreign goods costlier. So it will result in reduction in imports, decline in imports, right? So import is positively dependent upon income and negatively dependent upon real exchange rate, right? Then increase in foreign income will lead to increase in exports. Why? When there is increase in foreign income, suppose we are in India, there is increase in foreign income in America. So exports will increase from our country, because when their income has increased, they will demand more of our goods. Means they would like to import. One country's export is another country's import. One country's import is another country's export. So when the income increases in a foreign country, the exports will increase from our country, right? So foreign demand for our goods will go up, exports will go up, right? And increase in real exchange rate R makes domestic goods cheaper. If real exchange rate goes up, it means things have become costlier, goods and services have become costlier in foreign countries. So relatively our goods and services have become cheaper. So we can export more. So in case of exports are positively related to both increase in foreign income and real exchange rate. Whereas in case of imports, it's not like that. In case of imports are positively related with income. When income goes up, imports go up. When income comes down, imports come down. And real rate of exchange. If real rate of exchange goes up, imports come down. If real exchange rate comes down, imports go up. Negatively related. Whereas in case of exports, both are positively related. In foreign income as well as rate of real exchange rate. If foreign income goes up, exports go up. If real exchange rate goes up, exports go up, right? Exports depend on foreign income and real exchange rate. Imports depend on domestic income and real exchange rate. Export depend on foreign income and real exchange rate. Import depend on domestic income and real exchange rate, right? Now we have determination of income in open economy. We have discussed. Remaining of this determination of income in open economy, we will discuss in the next part 4 of 4, right? Part 4 of 4 we will discuss, and till this time I think you found it easy to understand. One thing you should always remember, domestic demand minus imports is equal to demand for domestic goods, right? You can write it down. Domestic demand minus imports is equal to demand for domestic goods. domestic demand minus imports is equal to demand for domestic goods. Right? Okay, I hope you found it easy to understand. Other things we will discuss in part 4 of 4. Okay, thank you very much.